Imagine you wake up tomorrow, and the woman who went silent is suddenly watching everything you do. She hasn't said a word. She hasn't called. But something has changed. And the biggest mistake you could make now is reaching for your phone, because sometimes her silence changes before her behavior does. You may never see the moment it happens. There is no announcement, no dramatic confession, no message saying, "I'm starting to miss you." Instead, something much quieter begins happening inside her mind. She starts remembering a conversation you had, a moment when she felt understood, the way you made her laugh, a place you went together. Something completely ordinary that suddenly carries emotional weight because you are no longer constantly present in her world. And this is where most people make the wrong move. They notice a tiny sign and immediately react. She views a story and they think, she wants me back. She likes something, and they send a message. She appears online, and suddenly they're checking every few minutes. One small signal becomes an excuse to chase. But attraction and emotional curiosity don't work like a mathematical equation. One sign doesn't prove anything. What matters is the pattern underneath it. When someone has emotionally stepped away, they may initially feel relief. They have space. There is no pressure, no difficult conversation, no expectation to respond. But time has a strange way of revealing what distance actually means. When the noise disappears, memories become louder. And eventually, she may begin asking herself questions she didn't ask when you were constantly available. Why hasn't he contacted me? Has he moved on? Does he still think about me? Was I too quick to walk away? Notice something important here. You don't create those questions by forcing them into her mind. You create the possibility for them by no longer answering them for her. That's why your first move should not be movement. It should be stillness. If you believe she's becoming curious again, don't suddenly appear everywhere. Don't manufacture jealousy. Don't post cryptic quotes designed for her to notice. Don't send a meaningless, "Hey," just because you're afraid she might forget you. Let the silence breathe. Because if she is genuinely reconsidering things, she needs the freedom to experience that realization herself. And you need the freedom to observe it without becoming emotionally dependent on every little signal. This is difficult because uncertainty is uncomfortable. Your mind wants an answer. Your emotions want reassurance. Your phone suddenly feels like the most important object in the room. But strength is not getting everything you want immediately. Strength is being able to sit with uncertainty without allowing uncertainty to control your behavior. Maybe she reaches out, maybe she doesn't. Either way, your job remains the same. Stay grounded, protect your standards, and pay attention to actions rather than fantasies. Because the moment you start chasing every possible sign, you stop observing reality and start creating a story. And stories can make you react to things that never actually happened. So if her silence is beginning to change, don't rush to break it. Watch, listen. Let time reveal whether curiosity becomes genuine effort. Because the person who can remain calm while everyone else is reacting sees what everyone else misses. And don't chase the sign. Become the man who doesn't need one. And then comes the hardest moment. You start feeling that she might reach out. Maybe you notice a subtle change. Maybe she suddenly becomes more visible. Maybe a mutual friend mentions her. Maybe she interacts with something connected to you. Or maybe you simply sense that the emotional distance isn't what it used to be. And suddenly, your hand moves toward your phone. You think, maybe I should just send something casual. Just one message. Nothing serious. Maybe, "Hey, how have you been?" But be careful. Because sometimes the strongest urge to contact someone isn't coming from confidence. It's coming from anxiety. You don't actually want to communicate. You want relief from uncertainty. You want to know what she's thinking. You want confirmation that she still cares. You want to stop wondering. And that's precisely why you should pause. Because when you're emotionally activated, Even a simple text can carry an invisible message beneath the words. You may type, "Hey," but emotionally you're saying, "Please give me reassurance." You may say, "Hope you're doing well." But underneath it could mean, "Tell me I still matter." And people can often feel that pressure, even when you never say it directly. This is why self-control becomes so important. If she's genuinely becoming curious about you, don't interrupt that process simply because you can't tolerate waiting. Let her curiosity develop. Think about what happens when you constantly provide someone with your attention. They never have to wonder where you are. They never have to experience your absence. They never have to confront the possibility that your life is continuing without them. But when you step back, something changes. Not because you're playing a game, not because you're trying to punish her, but because you're no longer doing all the emotional work for both people. And that distinction matters. You aren't trying to make her miss you. You're simply refusing to chase someone who isn't currently choosing you. There is dignity in that. And there is another reason you should resist the urge to reach out. You need to discover whether her interest can turn into action without your assistance. Anyone can respond when you knock on the door. The more revealing question is, will she knock on yours? That is where behavior becomes more meaningful than imagination. So when the urge comes, don't immediately obey it. Put the phone down, take a walk, work out, talk to a friend. Return your attention to your own life. Give yourself an hour, then another, and ask yourself one honest question. If I knew for certain that she would never contact me again, would I still want to send this message? That question exposes the truth. If your answer is no, then you're probably not reaching out because you genuinely have something meaningful to say. You're reaching out because you're afraid of losing access to her. And fear is a terrible strategist. You don't need to know what she's thinking tonight. You don't need to predict her next move. You don't need to decode every view, like, or coincidence. You need to control the one thing that has always been within your control. Your response. Because when you stop reacting to every emotional impulse, you become harder to destabilize. And when you become harder to destabilize, you stop negotiating against yourself. Maybe she reaches out tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe she never does. Your strength cannot depend on which answer arrives. Let the silence exist. Let her feelings belong to her. And let your actions belong to you. Because if you think she's about to reach out, the first thing you should do is not reach for her. Reach for your own composure. And there is something even deeper happening when you stop trying to control what she feels. You give her the opportunity to discover those feelings for herself. Think about it. When you constantly remind someone that you're there, they never have to wonder about you. Your attention is always available. Your messages are always waiting. Your presence is predictable, and predictability can become invisible. Not because you aren't valuable, but because the human mind often notices what it can no longer automatically access. This is why stepping back can reveal something that chasing never can. You don't know whether someone truly misses you when you're constantly standing in front of them. You find out when you leave enough space for them to notice your absence. But understand this carefully. Stepping back isn't about manipulating someone. It isn't about disappearing for 3 days because some dating rule told you to. It isn't about posting pictures with another woman just to provoke jealousy. It isn't about pretending you don't care when you're secretly checking your phone every 30 seconds. That's not emotional strength. That's performance. Real strength is much quieter. It's being able to say, I care about this person, but I don't need to control what she decides. That changes everything, because when you stop chasing, you also stop interfering with her internal process. She gets to remember you without being prompted. She gets to wonder without receiving an answer. She gets to compare her expectations with reality. And perhaps most importantly, She gets to decide whether she actually wants to return. That decision matters, because you don't want someone coming back simply because you pushed the right psychological button. You want someone coming back because she has genuinely reconsidered her choice. There is a difference between creating a reaction and discovering genuine desire. One is temporary, the other can become meaningful. So if you sense that her curiosity is increasing, don't rush to convert that curiosity into a conversation. Let it breathe. If she checks your profile, let her check it. If she asks about you through someone else, don't turn it into a dramatic announcement. If she suddenly becomes more visible in places where you might notice her, observe it without immediately assigning a meaning. Because the moment you become obsessed with interpreting every signal, you lose your ability to see clearly. You begin seeing what you hope is there. And hope can be dangerous when it replaces evidence. Instead, watch the progression. Does curiosity become communication? Does communication become effort? Does effort become consistency? Those are the questions that matter, because anyone can become curious for a moment. Anyone can miss someone at midnight. Anyone can send a lonely message when emotions are high. But genuine intention eventually produces behavior, and that's what you should wait for. Not hints, not fantasies, not breadcrumbs. Behavior. There's also something powerful that happens inside you during this process. You begin discovering that you don't need to chase an answer. You can live your life while the answer reveals itself. You can wake up, work, exercise, build relationships, pursue your goals, laugh with friends, and become more focused, without constantly asking whether she has changed her mind. And ironically, that is often when your perspective becomes clearest. You stop asking, how do I make her want me? And you start asking the far more important question, is she showing me that she deserves another place in my life? That shift is everything, because love should not require you to abandon your standards just to keep someone's attention. So give her space to become curious. Give yourself space to become clear, and let her next move tell you more than your imagination ever could. Don't force curiosity into connection. Let genuine interest reveal itself through action. But now comes the part most people overlook. If you believe she may reach out, the first person you need to prepare is not her. It's you, because imagine she sends you a message tonight. Your phone lights up. Her name appears on the screen. After days or weeks of silence, there it is. Hey, how have you been? What happens inside you? Do you become excited? Do you immediately start typing? Do you suddenly forget everything that happened? Do you respond within 3 seconds because you've been waiting for this moment? Or can you breathe, pause, and respond from a place of calm? That difference tells you how much control you really have over yourself. And emotional control doesn't mean becoming cold. It means your emotions can exist without becoming your instructions. You can miss her without chasing her. You can love someone without abandoning your standards. You can be happy to hear from her without immediately handing her complete access to your life again. That is the preparation you need, because if she returns and you haven't changed internally, the same pattern can simply begin again. You become excited, you overlook the past, you accept vague effort, you give too much too quickly, and then, eventually, you're standing in the same emotional position wondering why nothing changed. So before she reaches out, build your center. Return your attention to your own life. Work on your goals. Take care of your appearance. Strengthen your friendships. Develop your skills. Exercise, ride. Docket properly. Do the things that remind you that your identity is much larger than one relationship. Not because you're trying to make her jealous. Not because you want her to see what she's missing. Do it because you refuse to make another person's attention the measurement of your value. And there's another question you should answer before she comes back. What do you actually want? Not what do you hope she says, not what would make your ego feel better. What do you genuinely want? Do you want a healthy relationship? Do you want consistency? Do you want someone who communicates openly? Do you want mutual effort? Do you want respect? Then those standards need to exist before the message arrives. Otherwise, emotion will make the decision for you. And emotion is powerful. When someone you've missed suddenly returns, your brain can focus on the relief while forgetting the reason there was distance in the first place. That's why preparation matters. You don't need to rehearse a perfect response. You need to establish a clear standard. If she reaches out sincerely, you can respond warmly. If she wants to reconnect, you can listen. But you don't have to rush. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to convince her that you're still interested. And you certainly don't have to accept the bare minimum simply because you're afraid she'll disappear again. Let her show you who she is now. Let time reveal whether her behavior has changed. Because the goal isn't simply to get someone back. The goal is to know whether bringing them back into your life actually makes your life better. That requires judgment, and judgment requires emotional distance. So while you're waiting for her next move, stop waiting with your entire life live. And if her message eventually arrives, you'll be able to read it without your emotions writing the response for you. Before she reaches out, make sure you've already found your balance. And then, after all the waiting, all the silence, all the uncertainty, the moment finally arrives, your phone lights up, her name appears. Maybe it's a simple, "Hey." Maybe she asks how you've been. Maybe she brings up an old memory as if no time has passed. And suddenly, everything you've been trying to control gets tested in a single moment. This is where many people lose the composure they worked so hard to build, because they confuse contact with intention. A message arrives, and immediately they think, she's back. But is she, or is she simply curious? Is she lonely? Is she testing whether you are still available? Is she genuinely reconsidering what happened? You don't know yet, and that's okay. You don't need to know everything from the first message. You only need to watch what happens next, because words can open a door, but behavior tells you whether someone actually intends to walk through it. Imagine she sends, "I miss you." Those words can feel powerful, but what happens after that? Does she make an effort? Does she take responsibility for what happened? Does she communicate consistently? Does she suggest seeing you? Does she follow through? Or does she disappear again the moment she receives the reassurance she wanted? That's the difference between genuine intention and emotional breadcrumbs. And this is why you shouldn't punish her for reaching out either. Don't respond with bitterness. Don't say, "Oh, so now you remember me?" Don't try to make her pay for every day she was silent. And don't immediately overwhelm her with affection either. Stay calm, stay warm, stay observant. You don't need to create a power struggle. You need information. Let the conversation unfold naturally. If she asks how you're doing, answer honestly without turning the exchange into an emotional confession. If she wants to reconnect, allow her to demonstrate that desire. If she says she wants to see you, let her participate in making that happen. Because effort should not always come from one direction. That's something people often forget when they desperately want someone back. They become so focused on getting the relationship restored that they stop asking whether the relationship is actually healthy. They hear one emotional sentence and mentally build an entire future around it. Don't do that. One message is one message. One conversation is one conversation. One meeting is one meeting. Let each action earn the next level of trust. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about understanding that trust is rebuilt through consistency. If someone truly wants another opportunity with you, they won't need you to carry the entire connection. They'll participate. They'll communicate. They'll make time. They'll show consideration. And over time, their actions will make their intentions increasingly difficult to misunderstand. That's what you should look for. Not whether she can make you feel something, whether she can consistently make the relationship feel different, because anyone can return. The real question is whether they return with a different level of awareness. And if she doesn't, if she sends one vague message and disappears, then don't chase the second message. You don't need to squeeze meaning out of silence. You simply have your answer for now. Remember, you are not evaluating whether she still has feelings. You're evaluating whether her behavior deserves renewed access to your life. That's a much stronger position. So if she reaches out, don't celebrate too early, don't become bitter, and don't start chasing. Listen, observe, let her effort speak, because contact is only the beginning. Consistency is the proof, and eventually you reach the deepest lesson of all. Your real power was never in making her come back. It was in becoming okay with whatever she chooses. Because as long as your happiness depends on one specific outcome, you're not truly free. You're waiting for a message, waiting for a call, waiting for a sign, waiting for her to realize what she lost. And without even noticing it, your entire emotional life becomes organized around another person's decision. But what happens when you stop waiting? What happens when you say to yourself, if she comes back with genuine intentions, I'll listen. If she doesn't, I'll still be okay. That's where something changes inside you. You stop chasing certainty. You stop checking your phone every few minutes. You stop analyzing every view, every like, every mysterious appearance online. You stop asking friends what they think she might be feeling. And you start living again. That doesn't mean you suddenly stop caring. You can still miss her. You can still remember the good moments. You can still hope things work out. But hope is no longer controlling your behavior. That's emotional freedom. And there's something almost paradoxical about it. When you no longer need someone to return, you become much better at deciding whether you actually want them back. Think about that. If she reaches out while you're desperate for her attention, you'll be tempted to accept almost anything. A vague apology might feel like enough. A late-night message might feel romantic. A little attention might feel like proof that everything has changed. But when you're emotionally grounded, you can ask better questions. Has anything actually changed? Is she consistent? Does she respect my boundaries? Is there mutual effort? Can we communicate differently this time? Does this connection bring peace, or does it bring the same confusion I worked so hard to escape? Those questions protect you. Because love isn't simply about whether someone wants you. It's also about whether the relationship works for both of you. And if she doesn't come back, that isn't automatically a defeat. Sometimes silence gives you an answer that words never could. You may discover that the relationship was teaching you something you needed to learn. You may realize how much of yourself you were sacrificing just to keep someone close. You may discover that you were chasing an old version of the relationship that no longer existed. And eventually, you understand. Closure doesn't always arrive through another conversation. Sometimes closure arrives when you stop needing the conversation. You stop asking why. You stop replaying what happened. You stop imagining what you could have said differently. You accept what happened, learn from it, and continue moving. That's not giving up. That's maturity. So if she reaches out, don't lose yourself in excitement. If she doesn't, don't lose yourself in disappointment. Either way, return to the same foundation. Your purpose, your standards, your self-respect, your life. Because the strongest position isn't standing by the phone hoping she chooses you. It's building a life where her choice matters, but doesn't define you. And perhaps that's the real sign you were looking for all along. Not the sign that she's coming back. The sign that you finally stopped needing her to. Stay calm. Let actions reveal the truth. And keep moving forward.